Hey guys, and welcome to another recent viewing video. It's Red Shadow, and I just got done watching a movie a few minutes ago called Project Almanac. Now, I wanted to give my thoughts on this movie because I was pleasantly surprised with this one. I was expecting this to ultimately either suck or just be a bit of a letdown and be kind of boring, or I don't know. The last couple movies that I've watched that I felt were kind of hyped because of who was in it, or what the story was about, let me down. And this one I was just expecting, it's going to be a lot of these other throwaway titles that I've seen over the years where somebody has an interesting concept and they just don't do a very good job with the writing or the directing or the cast that is in the movie. And yet this movie seemed to kind of strike on all those chords. The casting was pretty good. The writing was pretty good. The pace of the movie was all right. I was, like I said, pleasantly surprised with this one. So anyway, this movie is a time travel movie. Wikipedia calls it a found footage sci-fi thriller film. I guess that's okay, but basically it's just a time travel movie. It's another movie, about time travel stuff and the effects that time travel could produce in the vision of the writers and whatnot of this movie. I do wonder. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, this movie is about this kid who's in high school, and he gets accepted into MIT after showing off some experiment that he did, but they don't give him a full ride. He only gets part of the money he would need to go, and his mom decides to sell their house and move herself and his sister into it was like a relative, just so that he'll have the money to be able to go to MIT, because obviously he's been gifted with the brains of his father, the genetics of his dear old dad, who was a smart scientific guy who died in a car crash on his 7th birthday. And it's something that in a way has kind of haunted this kid all the way up through the time of the movie when he's 17. And he is trying so hard to mull over what he's going to do. He's not happy with the idea that his mom wants to sell the house, and he's feeling the pressure and some guilt and regret over things at a time when he should be happy and excited. So he's in the attic, and his sister comes up and scares him. And they stumble across an old video camera that has footage from that birthday party where he last saw his dad. But then he notices something in the background of the video that shocks him. He sees himself, not as the 7-year-old, but as the 17-year-old. And so it causes him to pursue what is going on, trying to get to the bottom of what had happened. And he tracks down in the basement where his dad had all his scientific equipment and stuff that it's been off limits to them all those years. He manages to go in and look through everything, and he discovers that his dad and the government agencies or companies or whatever that he was working for were working on and had designed the blueprints and some of the basic components of a temporal relocation device, aka a time machine. And of course, far-fetched, yes, but suspension of belief. This kid and his friends and his sister and this other girl from his school end up putting together all the correct components to actually create this time machine that was detailed in all this paperwork and blueprints. And so the movie goes from there with what can they do with this and what will they do with this. Now, this is where I thought there was a bit of a problem that came along in the beginning. They laid out rules about they will always jump together and no one will go alone, and the things that they would or wouldn't do with the power of this time machine. And one of the things that they say they wouldn't do is go crazy and use it for money and use it for this and use it for that, selling it, doing this and that. And yet a couple steps into what they start to do on it is they go and win the lottery. They don't win the big 50 or 60 million dollar one. They win like 1.8 million, but it's still enough money to keep dear old mom from having to sell the house, and allows one of the kids, who's kind of the most oddball, I guess, of the group, to become really popular, buy a Maserati and all this shit. And that stuff was fun, but they said they weren't going to do anything with money, and then the next thing you know, they're winning the lottery, which I thought was kind of silly. They should have just said, hey, we're going to do something like win the lottery so that we can take care of school and my mom doesn't have to sell this house and everything. And I felt like they kind of bobbled it there a little bit, unless I missed something. But then things start to domino, like the domino effect starts to kick in. The extra girl who kind of got integrated into their group because they used this girl's hybrid or electrical vehicle. They used the battery for it to charge up and power the time machine for like one of the first true time relocation experiments. So she kind of gets pulled into it, and then, lo and behold, he had a crush on her and kind of had interest. And lo and behold, later on in the movie, you find out that she was interested in him as well. And they have a moral dilemma thing that comes up in there about her being, and this is something that I recognize. I thought it was silly, like they were trying to give some extra depth to her character, but I still thought it was kind of silly. Most girls like this girl in school don't pay attention to the nerdy guys. They don't pay attention to the geeky misfits. They never would. They never will. All these movies that try to tell you that they do, I call bullshit. I didn't encounter that ever, and I was in 12 different schools from kindergarten to senior year of high school. I never saw a situation where that happened, where a popular girl, a cheerleader girl, a rich girl, a socially, upstanding high school teenage girl had anything but disdain and distaste for the guys like me and the outcasts and the misfits and the nerdy guys and the smart guys and all that kind of stuff. I call bullshit on that. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a little too cynical in my old age, but I didn't care much for her getting so upset about the idea that maybe I did like you. Did you ever think about that? It's great for the movie, I guess, but when I was trying to think about it, when I was trying to relate, #relatable, when I was trying to relate to it, I just felt like, yeah, bullshit. But anyway, he's fallen for her. Now she's a part of his group. And he even does something, this was also kind of a head scratcher, but she wanted to go back to Woodstock, and she wanted to go to all these musical, concerts and festivals and all this kind of stuff. And he was able to take him to like Lollapalooza of that year, the prior year or whatever, and create an awesome day for the whole group, and bringing her and him closer together. And yet, when he would have had a great moment to move in for the kiss or to say something, really profound, I guess, to let her know that he was interested, he blew it. And she was very, very upset about it. And he was very, very upset about it, to the point where he goes and makes his first jump without anybody else so that he could fix that. And this is where I thought the whole, okay, Hollywood, conventions have to fall into place. He does a jump, fixes that, changes things. All of a sudden he comes back. They're together. Great relationship. But planes have crashed, and the high school basketball team doesn't go to the championship because the star player broke his leg, and his dad was the pilot of this airplane, and he would have been there for the big game if they'd went to the championships. But instead he's flying this plane, it crashes, and 77 people die, and I was like, the silly butterfly effect taken to the max on steroids and overdosing on speed. It was like, brrr, all this shit just goes crazy because of one little thing that he does. And it was like, oh, okay, I mean, I know that it's in there to create tension and to progress the storyline and in the end, spoiler warnings if you're wanting to watch this movie and you haven't yet. But the spoiler warning is, in the end, as almost always happens in any kind of movie where it involves time travel and all that, somebody or something has to be destroyed. Somebody or something has to be taken out. In this case, the information in which to make this time machine has to be eliminated because our boy David has completely fucked up the timeline of everything, not just for him and his close friends and family, but the entire world, and all this stuff is going bonkers because of a couple of things that he tried to do to better himself. Because of course, if you have the ability to better yourself, it's going to shit on everything else in the world. So I was a little turned off by that, but and even though I saw the ending coming, it was fine for what that was worth. But I did kind of, turn my head a little bit away from the whole absurdity that you can't ever have anything nice. That's realistic, real world stuff. It's a movie. In this case, in this particular movie, I wanted to see a little bit more of the happy ending. And then, of course, it had a really ambiguous ending of, did he really eliminate everything that was needed to keep him from knowing that his dad was working on some project? Because all of a sudden, at the end, like, his line is something along the lines of, I think we're going to change the world or something like that. I just wanted to know that maybe he, sucked it up a little bit and he was going to talk to this girl and they were going to be happy and they were going to date and he and his friends were going to go on with their lives and go to college and happily ever after. This was not a movie that I expected there to be either ambiguous ending or a sad ending or upsetting type ending. But like I said, maybe that sounds like I'm more negative about it than I am. I'm really not. Like I said, I enjoyed it a lot. It was really good. It would be maybe a movie that could have a sequel, as long as it wasn't all of a sudden like they're now superheroes, like not like a Chronicle style movie, which I wanted to mention. This being a found footage shaky cam kind of film, it's like a Chronicle. It's like some other movies like Cloverfield and whatnot. But I actually thought this was probably one of the best done found footage style movies that I've ever seen, because it wasn't super shaky. It wasn't like, oh, let's get sick or anything like that. It was actually really well done in terms of that. It still didn't explain why his sister and his friend and himself were always filming everything. But once again, I can let that go in lieu of all the other things that I complained about. It was really well done, and I don't think if you're the kind of person who gets sick from something like a Blair Witch Project or a Cloverfield, I don't think you'll have as much of a problem with this one as you might with those. So anyway, yeah, I guess that's it. That's my thoughts on Project Almanac. Pleasantly surprised with this one. Of course, I would be. Of course, this would be a movie that I would rent instead of buying, and now that I've rented it, I want to buy it. But I think it's worthy to sit on the shelf with the rest of my movies. I liked it that much. It's pretty good. So that's it. That's my thoughts on Project Almanac. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.